Now, just as the controversy seems to be subsiding over the release of the man convicted of the Lockerbie bombing, the very question of his conviction simmers up again. Ever since the trial at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands, questions have been raised about some aspects of the proceedings. Now, in spite of his abandoning his second appeal against conviction, these questions don't go away. This morning, SNP MSP Christine Graham reported she'd been told in a Freedom of Information response that a significant piece of material evidence from the trial had been sent to Germany and the USA during 1990, and that the Lord Advocate hadn't known about it. Well, soon after, the Crown Office responded that the information was already in the public domain. Shortly, we'll continue that debate, but first, Julie Peacock takes up the story.
If anyone thought the release of al-megrahi would put an end to questions over his conviction, then they've been disappointed.
The main news this morning, an MSP claims the Crown Office has confirmed that a piece of evidence vital to the conviction of the Lockerbie bomber was taken from Scotland to Germany during the investigation.
The Crown Office has said it's misleading of an MSP to suggest that new evidence connected to the Lockerbie bombing trial could have compromised the prosecution's case. The SNP's Christine Graham says she's discovered that a fragment of bomb timer left.
Hardly a week goes by without yet another story raising questions over the Lockerbie conviction. Christine Graham's latest claim appears to have already been in the public domain. But is any wonder she got confused when there have been so many claims and counterclaims over the years? But the one thing that is clear is that questions over what really happened to Pan Am Flight 103 just refuse to go away.
I think it keeps happening because it was such a controversial case, such a huge case. But more than that, it was a circumstantial case. There was no smoking gun. So a series of events had to be proved to have taken place and had to be put together in a long chain of events, or a jigsaw if you like. And any one of those, if any one of those failed to meet the evidential test, then the whole case would fall. Now, all of these were put to the court at Camp Zeist about 10 years ago or so, including this timer fragment which has come to light again. And they were all tested, and the three judges hearing that case decided that beyond all reasonable doubt, the case against Abdel Basset Ali Mohammed al-megrahi was proved.
This isn't the first time Christine Graham has raised questions over the fact the Circuit Board left Scotland.
The kindest thing would be to say it was slipshod. Probably the reality is a prosecution had to be secured.
But Christine Graham's claims are disputed by the Crown Office, who say the fact the fragment went to Germany is public knowledge and was even discussed at al-megrahi's original trial. But they add the piece was never out of the custody of Scottish police. Christine Graham hasn't been the only one critical of the way some of the evidence has been dealt with. At the beginning of al-megrahi's second appeal, a judge criticised the government when they refused to hand over a secret document relating to the case, saying it was against the interests of national security. And as for that tiny piece of circuit board, well, it's often found itself at the centre of controversy. At al-megrahi's appeal 2 years ago, I spoke to Edwin Bollier, whose company produced the timers. He said it was a fake, planted to point the finger at Libya.
This fragment was manipulated, and then somebody say, yes, this is not from a Libyan timer.
But his witness evidence was discredited in court, and he admitted expecting to receive a reward from Libya if he showed al-megrahi was innocent. But there is also doubt from people whose only motivation is to discover the truth.
During our time in the Fatal Action Inquiry in Dumfries, the Thatcher government prepared public interest immunity certificates against us seeking certain information then. And it immediately makes you think, what have they got to conceal? And how can it be in the public interest that what went on in the failure to prevent Lockerbie should be concealed from the public, who should have been protected then? And we were told at the Fatal Action Inquiry that Lockerbie was a preventable disaster and that the aircraft was under the host state protection of the United Kingdom. And I think we all need to know why the host state protection of the United Kingdom failed on that night in December 1988.
Calls for a public inquiry have been resisted so far, but there are many who believe it's the only way any of these questions will ever be answered.